Our mind can be our greatest ally and simultaneously our greatest enemy. And it's so interesting how we can latch on to a particular thought. We can aboard a train of thought and never hop off that train, at least not for a long period of time. And so we go down this dark road of self-doubt and negative self-talk, the lack of belief in one's own mission and your journey and who you are and in your ability to achieve something. So let's go. We all have areas in life in which we are excelling in which we are confident, capable, and it's these facets that we don't often recognize or appreciate or acknowledge to the same extent as the ones in which we are not confident in. And I've always felt that in order to gain that confidence, you have to be bad at something. You have to struggle with something. You have to face a certain challenge and learn how to climb that mountain ever so slowly. Climbing that mountain, though, it isn't just this straight, slope that gradually increases. It's a very rocky surface. Sometimes it will, go on a downward pattern, a downward slope and a trend, and there'll be a rocky surface, a slippery slope, and it's just all over the place. But in order to achieve something that you've never had, you have to do something that you've never done. And that goes for confidence, and it goes for improving your own self-efficacy and your trust and faith into what it is that you can do and ultimately accomplish. Now, even with that being said, doubt is something that I think everyone has at least faced or struggled with at one point or another in their life. Doubt, back when I was younger in high school and just a growing teenager, I would always second guess myself. I would doubt whether or not I could pass an exam. I would doubt whether or not I could go up and speak to that pretty girl. I would doubt whether or not I could go up and give a presentation in class and actually excel. It was the idea of, well, what if I fail? What if I can't? That would get to me. And I wouldn't look at that and kind of mirror it with the idea of, well, what if I actually can? A lot of times that genuinely takes failure, or facing a struggle, or facing a challenge, an obstacle that might seem so daunting. And what you really doubt is whether or not you can actually overcome that obstacle. Can you get past it? And there's this idea in your head of who you are, of who I am, and what I can actually do and can't do. And sometimes when you're climbing these mountains, you slowly shatter that complex. In my personal experience, at least over the past few years, that some things that I've doubted whether or not I can do are kind of just the incremental steps towards adulthood. That's a big theme of this channel, is growing up, becoming a man, how to take initiative, take accountability and action, and develop some skills, some traits personally in your own life, because that's what we're always doing, is constantly evolving. To give you examples, the one thing that I feared a lot when I was a late teenager was driving. Like, I got my license at 18, but I wasn't really driving all that much. I was still afraid to go places I had never been, to venture off somewhere new, of getting lost, of getting in an accident. And it was this idea in my head that other people are driving, but I'm not. I'm incapable of this. I can't improve upon this. I can't do this. And sure, that might be from some past experiences I've referenced on this channel. Like, when I went go-karting one time when I was a kid, and I did very poorly. I couldn't disassociate the brake from the acceleration, and so I struggled mightily and left me with a negative impression on driving. And so that kind of scarred me with the notion that I'm just bad and I'm just incapable, and not just incapable of doing, but improving. And over time, I got out on the road, started to go places I had never been, do things I had never done, and I realized, like, this is really not that bad. I'm very much capable of doing this. Another thing lately, more recently, has been the idea of a relationship. For a long time, I wanted to be alone, and a lot of it was because I didn't feel like I was ready to handle the responsibility that a relationship brings with it. Because it's a lot, it's heavy. And although I'm not quite solidified in a relationship, I've been talking to this girl, and we've been really getting to know each other and pushing towards that point. We've mentioned that we want to to get into a relationship, and I've never done this before, so it's very heavy, it's a lot, and you feel pressure. I think the one thing that I've realized about pressure in life is that it's earned. Pressure is earned. It's a good thing to feel that. Like, how am I going to maintain a healthy, stable relationship with somebody while simultaneously being able to focus on the things that matter to me? Having enough time to work and generate income, having enough time to focus on hobbies, having enough time to exercise, having enough time to spend with family and other friends and make time for all these things. And there's this part of you that's like, man, this is a lot. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can make time or how I'm going to make time. But you have a decision in terms of whether or not you want to latch onto that thought, or in terms of whether or not you want to listen to it. Now, sometimes doubt is actually kind of a good thing, because at the very least, maybe it's a more logical perspective. Maybe you're going through an actual relationship and things aren't really working out. You're trying to work through your problems, but one or two of you are going through something heavy, and it's just not going to work. It's genuinely not going to work. And so that feeling of doubt might actually be onto something, which is why I say doubt isn't necessarily always just wrong. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you do have to analyze it. And if it is always convincing you of this idea that you cannot do something, that's where you have to look at it from a different perspective. But what if I can? What if everything I'm trying to achieve right now? What if the goals I set out for myself? What if the life I want to live? What if the person that I want to be with? What if I can make it work? But in order to do that, you have to start small, you know? What are the areas in your life that you want to improve upon? Think about that for a second. And it's not like, it doesn't have to be finding a new career or starting to create a gym routine where you're going every day and getting in the best shape of your life. Sometimes it can be just going to sleep a little bit earlier. It can be putting your phone down before, like an hour or two before bed. It can be trying to alter some of your eating habits or the times in which you eat, the content that you consume. You know, trying to maybe start writing once a day, doing a little bit of stretching, a little bit of yoga. These incremental steps really build over time, and that's how you climb the mountain, is by starting at the base, at a point where it's not necessarily so daunting. It's not the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the mountain. It's just the very beginning. I would be lying to you if I said that there's not doubt of whether or not I can sustain this relationship, of whether or not I can manage to balance everything out, which has been a big challenge for me. There's been doubt, there's been thoughts or ideas in my head that are convincing me that I can't or that I'm incapable. But I have to, at least if I want to overcome them, quite literally go right through those thoughts. There's no real sugarcoating it. There's no other way to put it. I can at least convince myself, or kind of look at those thoughts in a certain way and say, hey, I am capable of doing this, but actions will speak volumes in convincing myself of that. I don't fear driving anymore. But in order to tackle that fear, it wasn't just by sitting back and saying, like, I can do this. That might have been a way to begin, but it was by just getting out there and doing it. I'm out here. I'm doing this. I'm conquering this fear or this idea of what I can't do. And that's the action that it takes to overcome that doubt, is by just putting yourself in that situation. You know, just go right through it, man. And when you're climbing these mountains, you have that choice. You see this rocky surface that you're not sure whether or not you can overcome. Now, again, there might be times where you genuinely don't have the qualifications or the facilities to ultimately overcome it. There might be those moments. But if you are facing that difficult leap, that challenge, that obstacle, it's whether or not you're going to, resolve back to comfort, or you want to go right through it. You want to take the leap. You want to take on the challenge. And sometimes when you do that, it doesn't work out. You might fall a little bit. And it is in these situations, when we fall, where we learn. That's how we build. That's how we mold ourselves and our character, is through those failures. So when you go through a loss, a setback, try and look at it as actually something that's propelling you forward. It's not necessarily about trying to see the positive in everything. Sometimes it's, hey, this sucks. I messed up. That is what it is. but it's the lesson. It's what that does for your mindset when you are able to take that accountability and accept those things. And the fact that going through your life, going and climbing this mountain, you're going to fall at times. It's a long-winded process and a journey, and it doesn't just happen so gradually. The best way to tackle that doubt is quite literally by going through it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, know where I'm coming from, and I thank you as always for tuning in. Feel free to leave any like, comment, subscribe. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. So much love, and Will from Shadow Ascent, signing out.